Put your hands up if you love
The Robert Budd Show. All right, welcome. Thank you for tuning in. Today we're talking with Andy Bayon. Andy, his business is called San Diego Date Ideas, and I've used his services before. And what was great about Andy's service is that I didn't have to think about the date. I just pretty much followed the directions, where to go, what time of day would be best to go. It was just a super no-brainer. We had a blast, and we use him often. So that's really cool. Andy he's done the true entrepreneur way. You know, he was working in a big corporate deal, big corporate company, and we talk about that. And he just came to a point where he's like, okay, this isn't for me anymore. This is not what I want to do. I don't want to be behind a desk. This isn't fulfilling for me. And what do I do next? What really lights me up? And he's doing it now. So he's walking the walk. So if you're interested in like what it takes to, you know, be an entrepreneur and some of the challenges that he's come across is same things that I have also. And it's really great to hear someone who's actually done it and is in the mix of doing it. And Andy's just a great guy. He's got a lot of insight, a lot of fun ideas. He's a really fun guy. He loves the outdoors. So without further ado, and I had a blast. I had such a blast with this interview. So without further ado, here is Andy.
Boom.
There it goes.
Success.
I just pushed it says allow record, and then so I pushed allow record, and so he's recording it. So you're recording it.
Yeah, it's recording.
Well, fuck, how am I going to get it? Anyways, this is recording.
We'll figure that out later. Hopefully I can figure out how to send it.
Yeah. Let me get this. Okay. All right. Well, that was an interesting. All right. So technology, you got to love it.
Yeah. Sometimes
Cool.
you gotta work for it.
Got to fart around with it. So usually I do a sound check, like, hey, Andy, what'd you have for breakfast this morning?
I had a delicious shake, berries, almond butter, and I actually have more in the fridge, which I may get up to get during the course of this interview.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Sounds good. So yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Excellent.
Check. Cool. So is there anything that you don't want to, like, is off limits that you wouldn't want to talk about? Like some people don't want to talk about politics or religion or, you know.
Everything's fair game.
Everything's fair game?
Yep.
All right, sweet. All right. So I was kind of stalking you. Actually, I was stalking you a little earlier to find out, you know, like a little about you and stuff like that. And the intention of these podcasts is to get to know the person, in your case, the guy behind the business, the entrepreneurship. You know, I'm kind of interested because you were in the insurance business, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And now you are not. So why don't you start by what do you do now? What's your business?
My business now is solely focused on bringing fun and adventure into relationships. And I do that through my company, San Diego Date Ideas. And the whole intention behind that is to get people, is to be able to bring that spark back to relationships through providing a shared experience for couples and families. And this all came about because of my love for the outdoors. And I saw how much I was fed by being in nature, and I wanted to bring that to people because I noticed a lot of my friends were stressed out, and then, you know, for people who were dating or for couples, they were looking for ideas of different things to do. And I kept hearing, like, I don't know where to go. Like, I'm sick of going to dinner. And I'm just like, there's so much to do around here. And a lot of it has to do with the outdoors. And like where we live, there's so many hikes and so much stuff around just locally around the city, let alone out in the county a little bit. So it's just kind of turning people onto that, and it was being tour guide, but then kind of stepping away from doing it all myself and creating these experiences for couples.
So where did it all stem from, this love of nature and
there was a great interview. President Obama interviewed David Attenborough, who was the BBC, the classic BBC documentary guy. And he does all the National Geographic stuff. And President Obama asked him, like, when did you start going out in nature? And Sir David Attenborough said, I don't know when I ever stopped.
Yeah. Like,
basically, like, he never lost it. He said what happens to people is that a lot of times they lose the perspective of how valuable it is. And I don't think I ever lost it, because I grew up, I was always outdoors. I had an 1.5 acres in southeastern Massachusetts, where I grew up, south of Boston. I was always climbing trees and just kind of, even in the winter, I was outside building snow forts and running around. And I'm fed by being outdoors. So I did the nature camp thing growing up. I did just outdoors, like tossing the ball up and heading into the woods for hours on end. That was my fun when I was little. My parents would let me have Nintendo, despite how many times I was like, all my friends are beating me in Mario. Like, I can't, this is embarrassing. They're like, sorry, you'll play when you're over their house. But here it's like, it was about kind of learning through experience. And most of that was outdoors. So I've always had it. And I think that's why it's like, I could be working and stressed out for some hours, and I'll go out for even just a walk, and I feel it. I'm like, it just brings about a peace and a clarity. And I've always been fortunate enough to have that.
Yeah. It's, I resented my mom for not letting me, be on the high school football team in lieu of injuries. She's like, I don't want you to get injured. And now I totally am grateful for that, that she didn't have me do that, because, I could be like my buddies who had blown out knees and shoulders and bad backs and all that kind of stuff, and I really see the importance of my health now, instead of, maybe I missed out on being in that team sport at the time, but I played plenty of team sports. And as your parents are like, nope, no Nintendo. And look how it's like molded your life now, Mm-hmm. So what's your take on the current situation with kids growing up now with a lot of FaceTime, a lot of screen time, a lot of, like I say, texting head, and they stick their head out and they're texting all the time. What's your take on that?
I think there are pluses and minuses, mostly, in my opinion, minuses. I think it's good that they will grow up being able to figure out anything technologically, because that's where the world is going. Everything is getting automated, and everything's going to be on computers, for the rest of their lives. But I think for the most part, my concern is the connection. I had, I was having a conversation with someone, I don't remember who it was, but they were talking about their kid not being, it was you. You were telling me about your buddy.
Yeah.
Whose son was like, was it his son? It was just kind of making noises,
Yeah.
Because he's so glued to it. I was like, who was I talking with? I think that's a real thing. I mean, especially in younger years, that human connection, you learn so much through interaction. And if that's just on a screen, then if you have the person-to-person stuff, I think that can be learned even at a later age. Like, I think it can be reversed, but it's pretty common now for parents. Like, if they're doing their own thing, they're so busy, it's just give the kids a movie, a video, let them play. And then that's just hours and hours, and they stay quiet.
Yeah. It's the babysitter.
Yeah. And I don't think, if I'm fortunate enough to have kids, it's going to be minimal.
Yeah.
Much like mine was. Like I had limited TV hours, and God, like you're saying with your mom keeping you from playing football. I'm so grateful that I was like, I wanted to be outdoors. You know, I wanted to be climbing trees, and that was fun to me.
So tell me about this. So we'll touch on being in an insurance business a little bit, but I'm curious about like how your business now has moved from the transformational travel, international, to nature effect, to San Diego date ideas. Like how did all, the steps, how did it all play out?
Well, Robert, this is like a classic example of seeing the light and like just jumping out of the insurance business. And I realized after I had quit that the business model for transformational travel, the idea was to, we were going to do tours in Europe. And it didn't come to my attention that, hey, maybe like a 15, 20 person tour in another country when you've never done tours before is probably not the best place to start. So that was after I quit. We were like, oh God, okay, this could take something to implement. And, working out my business partnership at that point to like make sure that we were both committed, we agreed that, this isn't the right track right now. So I had already quit, and I was like, oh boy, what do I do now? So I went up to San Francisco to do a tour for the World Series. I think would have been 2 years ago when the Giants played the Royals. And I was like, oh, great. We have a captive audience. All these Kansas City people who don't know San Francisco, we'll give them a tour. And I rented a 30-foot RV, and I was driving it through the city, like up those hills. And I had never driven anything more than like a 22-foot U-Haul. Yeah. And so I'm like, oh my God, I don't think I'm going to do any city tours. And so I went up to Marin County, and I had to go up there to empty the gray water tanks from the RV, which was going to be my hotel and my tour bus because of the prices of both of those things that week. Yeah. And I ended up just recognizing that up in Samuel Taylor State Park, just coming out of the woods, which the trees are so huge and it just shades the sun completely. And then you drive out of that park and then it's just rolling hills and breeze towards the coast. And I was like, this is why I'm here. This is what I'm here to do, is show these types of places, show beautiful places to people. So I got back to San Diego and I created the Nature Effect, which is the desire to have people experience the same thing that I've been experiencing my whole life. And having the outdoors feed their life and bring about clarity and provide balance for whatever it is that they're doing. And I was like, that's it. I'm a nature tour guide. And I created this business in San Diego where I took people to the desert, to the mountains, and to the beach in one day. Because I was like, you can do all that here. And there's not too many other places besides maybe Chile that you can do that. And I just thought that was so unique. And my part of what led me away from that, outside of it being something, was like, people didn't immediately need it. It sounded like a good idea, right? So I had some people go, it was fun when we went on the tours, but it didn't really have all the demand. And I recognized that, I could still be a tour guide without actually doing the tour. And that way I could do all these different types of experiences. And I could create these little mini tours without being there. Because if it's just me doing the tour company, I have to do the same tour every day. Yeah. And within like a month, I was like, oh man, this is getting old. And my desire to go different places and like have these different experiences kind of had me rethink that, in addition to, all the overhead. Yeah. So that's how it kind of led to, okay, what is it that people need? They need ideas for things to do, especially in their relationships, friends or with kids, or in their romantic relationships, going out and doing new things. And so that's how it went from the Nature Effect to San Diego Date Ideas. And I still have like a big focus on, as you experienced, getting out and having a hike or somewhere that's outside of the normal routine of what we usually do. Yeah.
I dig the mixture of it being a date where you have, wine, or you go someplace you haven't been, and there's a lot of nature involved. Like we went on a hike, and there was a winery, and then you go get something to eat. It's ours was a full day. We started, the option to start super early in the morning and then go, through lunch and hike through lunch and then have dinner and stuff like that. So I thought that was super cool, and I didn't have to think about it. I was just like, I'm just going to follow directions, which I mostly can do. I didn't totally follow directions. And so we found some other, aspects of it. So, or just like in the surroundings, like, oh, let's try this. Oh, I'm going to tell Andy we found this while we're here.
Isn't that the best thing? You find stuff when you're in that area. You're like, oh, this looks cool. It's like it allows you to explore, right? In a place that you might otherwise not. And that's the whole intention behind it. It's not necessarily you have to do everything on here. It's just like you find your own adventure, which you do.
Well, tell me the process. I know I went through the process myself, but tell me, like, walk through the process. If somebody calls you up, and they hear about this because this is going to be worldwide and about a week or so. So if somebody calls you up and they're like, you're in San Diego, but what, somebody calls you up and they're in let's say I don't know, Utah or something like that. What walk me through that?
As in they're coming here, or they're looking for something in Utah?
Both.
Well, I think the whole idea behind it is to open your eyes to what is actually out there that you haven't looked into yet. So it's really the spirit of exploration that I think I want to ignite in people, to just be conscious and aware of what is out there, because once you get outside your normal realm of activities and things that you do, you find a lot more. So that doesn't matter. You can do that anywhere. Utah happens to be a place with some of the best national parks in the country. So that was my favorite state, actually. Doing the cross-country road trip we left from Baltimore with a huge U-Haul and drove cross-country. Out of all the states we went through Kansas, Colorado, down through Utah, Nevada, into California, that kind of mid-country route. Utah was the best, hands down. I think for me, being from the East Coast, the landscape was so different. So having been to, I think we went to 3 national parks and like stopped on the side of the road, so many places to take photos and just kind of climb up a hill and look at the view, I could easily put something together in Utah. If I'm not familiar with the state or wherever it is that people are, I think it's just a matter of getting them in touch with the right people. And that's what I want to do in building relationships for people who are experts in each part of the country, and ideally international. Like you said, worldwide. That's where I'd like it to go, is to create some sort of a network where it's easy, like it was for you, to just, okay, here's everything planned out. Here's where we go. Here's what we can expect. But I think you don't even need, if you're someone who wants that sort of experience, if you have that spirit of adventure, all it takes is a little bit of research, to be aware and to ask something new. What I do here in San Diego, if I want to try a new hike in a park, I'll call up a ranger, because they will gladly talk to you about, you just ask him, hey, what's your favorite hike? What's the best time to go here? What is what do we need to be aware of? And they'll gladly tell you their expertise. And then so I go out and check it out myself. And if it's something that I think is fun and worth it, and usually their recommendations are spot on, then I'll incorporate that into something that I put together.
Cool. Yeah, I know for me, you just kind of like interviewed me, like, what do? Do you guys like to drink? Do you like the outdoors? Do you dance? What is it that you like? So it's typically that type of interview, if somebody calls you up, like, what do you like to do? Or what have you wanted to do you haven't had a chance to do, or something like that?
Yeah, exactly. It's when what I find nowadays is that, like, what stops a lot of people is just being up to a lot of things, being busy, right? And that's not a bad thing, but that can sometimes prevent us from taking the time to actually look into some of these things that we keep talking about. Like, I can't even tell you. It was so embarrassing. It took me, oh my God, almost 7 years to stand up paddle. I mean, that is pathetic.
Yeah.
Almost 7 years to do that. Something so simple and easy and like perfect. And how many times did I say, oh man, I got to do that. But I just didn't look into it and I didn't do it until Veta and I went to Catalina.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't believe it took me that long. But it's something like that where you just like continuously say, I want to check it out. And then because you haven't done it, you're not too sure about it, you don't put the time and effort into doing it. And I just realized that that's pretty easy for me to experience and turn people on to if they're willing to. That's the thing. If you're open, then your life will be like you will never be bored if you're open to new experiences.
Totally. I totally agree. And I actually agree that I kind of have the same philosophy around working out and doing kettlebells. If you're open, like there's so many things that you can do with those damn things that it's like ridiculous. It's never the same workout twice. So what was it like? Give me the jump ship part of being an insurance agent, and then, or, were you a claim specialist, right? Being a claim specialist, and like what, you went to college, and, was that one of your first jobs out of college, or
my very first job out of college? Yeah.
Yeah. So you did that for how long, and what was the light bulb that went off there? Like, okay, this is it. I'm out of here.
It was, when I first accepted it, it was exciting. Like, it being real, it was the highest offer that I got. So I was like, all right, let's do this for that reason. But like, it actually, out of everything that I had applied for and been accepted for, which was only a handful, like 3 or 4, but this company played up the investigative aspect of accidents.
Yeah.
Claims. And I liked that idea of going to the scene. I liked that idea of taking interviews and like getting police reports and talking to witnesses, and the investigation of it was intriguing to me. It was like I pretended like I was in CSI, but it's just insurance. But it was kind of cool. And over the course of the 8 years that I worked for this company, they started to take away our autonomy in terms of investigation. And by the end, it was just me sitting at my desk with stacks of manila folders of papers that were like higher than my head, that I'd come in on Saturday mornings and I'd sit down and I'd go through one file of medical records that was thicker than the Bible. And I was just like, this is, I can't do this anymore, because it was like we had to be part lawyer, part medical professional, part investigative analyst, part administrative assistant, and it took away the fun and the excitement of it. And so towards the end of those 8 years, well, probably actually a couple years before I left, I was just like, I knew that it was kind of just an incomplete experience for me to be sitting in this cubicle. The majority of the conversations I had were arguing with some attorney, some bimbo attorney that, they don't, in California, they know if they have a good jurisdiction, they're going to win the case in court. So they'll just tell you, go screw off, and, I'm going to file suit. And so you lose the file so well, they don't care, and so the negotiation used to be fun for me. That got taken out of it. And so when I had this chance to start Transformational Travel, when I met my friend Maria, who was also really into travel, and she knew Italy really well, and the idea of doing like a cultural tour there with like the food and the wine, and and she had people ready to go too. Yeah. And I was like, this is it. This is my chance. And so I think the dream of it led me down this path of like, all right, this is my ticket out. See you later. And I got out of there. And I still, although it was like, I didn't properly do the planning, so I had to scramble in the year or so after jumping ship. It allowed so many other doors to open for actually spending the time and energy to do something that I love. And I knew that towards the end, before even transformational travel was a possibility. I remember going to Sunset Cliffs and just journaling and writing and being like, what is it? Like, what is my life for? And kind of, I need to find that, but I didn't know what to do. And like, honestly, the time and energy, everything was spent towards that job.
Yeah.
And fun for me was like going on a hike or going out something on a Saturday night, and like then it's back to reality. And I deep down I knew like this isn't life. This is not what it's about. And although society says go to school, get a good job, save up for retirement, and then you can have your fun on the nights and weekends, and then when you're 65 then you can, then you're free. And I was like, that's kind of a broken way to live life. And so that's was the impetus behind getting out of there and just trying different things.
Yeah. Now that you're an entrepreneur, what's the biggest challenge, or one of the challenges, and what's one of the payoffs being an entrepreneur?
Great question. I think that the biggest challenge for me, Robert, is staying focused. If you were to see, when I'm reading books, I have like total book ADD. I think I'm reading like 7 books right now. And so I'm like, oh, go over here. Oh, I like this one. This is good. Oh, no. So it's kind of picking something and staying focused on one thing and seeing it through. And that doesn't mean you can't course correct, but to a fault, I've jumped at the new shiny object and been like, oh no, this is the right path to follow. And I've only done a lot of things since I left in August 2014, halfway. So that's the challenge for me, is like, there's so many different ideas of things I want to do, and you can't implement them all at one time. Otherwise you're going to take one step in each direction as opposed to walking the path to actually realizing it. So that's it. It's like being able to have to play for fulfillment of that, right? To play for completing it, to give it a chance, to give it a fair chance. And if you do and it doesn't work, then you can switch. But for me, it's like I go halfway, and if it's not working immediately, I'm like, all right, something else. So yeah, focus and being your own boss.
Yeah. Well, there is something to say about ready, shoot, aim. Instead of I'm an overthinker, I will ready, aim forever, and then then take the safety off, and then think about shooting. So it's I'm like research. It's like that. It's a fear factor for me. It's a fear of like, is it going to turn out? Am I doing the right thing? Am I going to do it right?
Yeah.
Is people going to like me? That kind of stuff. That's what's there for me.
Yeah, I totally understand that. I have the same thing. It's like fear around. It probably dates back to something primal in our subconscious of like not being accepted or liked, or it's hard because we tend to collapse like something that we're doing, something that we try, and like if we fail at that, we like associate that with ourselves as a failure. So if the idea doesn't work, then I'm a failure. It's like it's hard in the beginning to separate that, and it's like something to consistently remind ourselves of. So I get that.
What about the biggest payoff, or one of the payoffs of being your own boss, entrepreneur, and being unfocused?
Yeah. It has to do with fulfillment for me. I'm not going to tell this whole story because it'd be too long, but there's a podcast that I just listened to when Tony Robbins goes around the world and he's asking all of his audiences all over the world, how many of you loved Robin Williams? And 98% all over the world would raise their hand. And he said, look at Robin Williams' life. He did all of these things. He had his own TV show. He had a beautiful family. He said, I'm going to win an Academy Award for something where I'm not being funny, which is his number one skill. He achieved so much. And in the end, he took his own life because he was not fulfilled. So I think the payoff, to come back to your question, the payoff is in the fulfillment and not in the achievement. And so being able to bring that, to talk to a couple and be like, we had so much fun, like we never would have done this before, to be able to create something and bring something to their relationship, where then usually the guy starts to go, oh, okay, I'm starting to see these different things that we can do. And then their relationship has changed. And that for me is so fulfilling. It's not about having to reach a certain monetary level or even needing a certain number of couples in my business. It's about what is the work that I'm doing that is making a difference. And I think if we can stay focused on the fulfillment, then we'll never get to a point of what is my life for, and I feel unfulfilled and what is missing. Because whatever it is that we're doing that we love, where we're using our creativity and bringing things like nature to other couples, then that brings about fulfillment. So that's the biggest payoff. Is I did not have that at all with the insurance company. There was zero fulfillment when they took away the investigation. It was just like I was just a robot.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest contrast.
What's your daily day look like? What's your daily routine look like? Like how do you start the day, get into your first few hours of the day?
Well, I sleep until noon, and then I wake up and have some breakfast, and then it's time for a nap. So I wake up really early because I love the early morning, and I think you're earlier than me. I think you're up at like 4:30. That's too early for me, but
That's too early.
I'm up usually around 5 or 5:30, and I've found the best way to deal with adversity and with things coming up in our lives that don't go the way that we expect them to is a sense of inner peace. And so meditation for me is a non-negotiable. And that's how I start. I meditate, and then to get all the stuff that's jumping around in my head out, to be able to think clearly, I journal. And I do that every morning too. And to clarify or to set an intention for the day, or, sometimes it's different what I'm journaling on. But that kind of clears up mental space to create for the day. And then I do some sort of movement, much like you, getting up, and that's part of your life, right? Is just movement and fitness. And it is a way of life. And for me, some sort of exercise in the morning to like get the blood pumping, and because I'm sitting most of the day. And if I don't set those markers for myself to be like, all right, get up, go for a walk, do some stretching, then I'll be in one position all day at my desk. And that's no good. So fitness and movement to start the day, and then little reminders as I'm working. And I try to do, as the morning starts, I try to do the creative work. So the date creation, what theme do I want to bring to these dates for each month? What is it that can bring about romance in the course of these dates for these couples, just to make it like the best that they possibly can have. Romantic, fun, adventurous. They're exploring, they're trying something new. They're doing things that remind them of what they used to do when they first started dating. And so it's that creativity space. And then the afternoon, it's communication. It's getting in touch with people. It's sending emails. It's, and I historically am awful with communication. It's like the number of times I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm just getting back to you." Like last year I was like, I just can't operate like that. So
yeah,
that's a big part. That's something that it used to be a luxury. I thought like, oh, having a conversation with somebody, I can do that in the evening because that's like fun time. Right. And now I'm like, no, that is essential to sharing ideas and just communicating, because getting it out of our head. So that's always a part of my afternoon. And if it's a good day, maybe I will have a 20-minute nap. I don't know.
That's a good day. I'm a napping fool. I love naps, man. Yes. That early morning. So if you could interview or talk and ask questions, whatever, I guess it is an interview with anybody dead or alive, who would it be?
Wow. I would have to say, God, there's so many that are in my mind. I would say either Albert Einstein or Thomas Edison. Because there's so many. Can I pick? I want to pick like 10. But the reason why Einstein came to mind is just like, I know I'm probably not going to understand half of what he's talking about. Like if I'm like, hey, Albert, can you explain to me the theory of relativity? I'll understand like an eighth of it. But it'd just be fascinating to be like, wow, this is a genius. And I hope someone will rub off on me. But like just picking his brain about like how he was so ahead of the game in predicting things, and like his focus on energy. Both he and Edison believed in the power of energy way before their time, way before anybody had any idea what they were talking about. And now this is more of a common conversation. It's like our thoughts create our reality. Our thoughts have energy, they're matter to them. And I'm like, I would want to ask them, how did you know that ahead of time? How did you feel it? What is the evidence? What was it like when you tried to bring something that seemed crazy to people? And how did you persist through that to change the world? And specifically with Edison, it's like, dude, how did you fail 10,000 times and then to create the incandescent light bulb and still to go those 9,999 times to actually do it after screwing up? Like, that's a man who had no attachment to, okay, I failed, I'm not a failure. Right. And so kind of gleaning some of that wisdom and internalizing it.
Yeah, cool. Where can we find you? I mean, where does Andy, one thing, hang out, and where can people get a hold of you?
I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. My website is SanDiegoDateIdeas.com. You can get a hold of me there. I need to do a better job about posting more on my Facebook, my business Facebook page. But on Instagram, I'll share ideas and places to go and good deals that are going on, or festivals that are coming up, that sort of thing. So I try to have that as like a source of ideas for people to continually, all right, what can I do this weekend? And just pop on there and see stuff. So that's mainly what I'm posting. Our mutual friend Eric is on me about Snapchat. I haven't spent the time to learn that yet. That's something I'm resisting, is Snapchat. Yeah. But Instagram, San Diego Date Ideas. Facebook page is San Diego Date Ideas, or just me, Andy Bayon, on Facebook.
All right, cool. Thanks, Andy. We'll look you up on all the social networks, all but Snapchat. All right, cool. Well, I want to thank all of you for listening. Once again, it's been a pleasure. I love doing this. I love doing the podcast and interviewing, and hopefully you love it as much as I do. And if you'd like to get a really short email about the upcoming episodes that are coming up or have passed, or some of the past episodes that I'm going to put back out. And if you would like to get a short email, go to robertbudd.net. Sign up for the newsletter. You can go on robertbudd.net and go to the contact page, contact me page, and you can put a comment in there, how you like the episode, who you would, what you want to hear, who would you like to hear being interviewed, what you like and disliked about the show. You can also find me on Facebook, Robert Budd, on Instagram, RobertBudd16, Twitter, RobertBudd16. What else am I on? Pretty much all the social outlets are RobertBudd16. So, once again, it was really great being with y'all, and until next time, have a wonderful day.